Here we go. Hello, everyone. Chariep Sul, and welcome to the 8th Annual Cambodia Town Film Festival Virtual Edition. I am going to be your moderator. My name is Chheng. But before we begin, it is very difficult to do a film panel without acknowledging that the film industry lost an icon in Chadwick Boseman. He is certainly known as a Black icon, but he also influenced and was beloved by a lot of Asians in film as well. So, Mr. Boseman, thank you again for gifting us with your art, and may you rest in peace. And with that, I want to thank all of you for joining us today for today's panel. It's on Raskal Love, a documentary about Vanna Fut, aka Lazy, who was initiated by the Tiny Rascal Gang at the age of 11. He takes us on a journey from his experiences in gang life to becoming a pioneer breakdancer in Seattle during the 1990s to landing a role in a cult gangster genre film. So all of you in Cambodia Town cyberspace, please help me welcome the filmmaker, Byron Q. Woo!
Hey,
And hi, Byron, how are you?
hey, Kay. I'm doing well. How are you?
Excellent. Uh, we, I'm great. We also might get an appearance by Vanna himself, who the story is based on. So, thanks for joining us, everybody who's watching. And Byron, first question, and you touch on this at the beginning of the film, but I really want to know what inspired you to pursue this story.
Yeah, I think the story was really inspired by my experience with Vanna when I made my first film. And, during the making of that film, I got to know him really well. And slowly he kind of told me his personal story. And he told me that he was already trying to make a documentary based off his life. And,
Oh,
he had worked with like this guy named RJ, who was also in the documentary when he was doing video production stuff with him. So he was really trying to do that. And I was like, you know what? Like, I really want to help him. And I think it's a powerful story that needs to be told. So I kind of did that. Like, as soon as we wrapped on my first film, um, the documentary was the next project.
and what was that first film? So you can get a quick plug
Uh,
in.
Bang, bang,
Bang Bang. All right.
bang,
Check that
bang.
one out and Raskal Love. That's cool. And so um, in Cambodian culture, we tend to not talk about the past, especially when it comes to trauma. So can you tell me how you got Vanna to open up?
I think he didn't really have that much difficulty opening up because this was a story that he wanted to tell as well. Um, so it was different, from like I guess other documentaries where people are really trying to like pull information out.
Mhm.
Um, so I didn't really have to like pry too much, into certain things. I did, you know, lead him into certain stories and like try to get him to talk a little bit more about this or a little bit more about that. Um, but I think just like with our relationship together, he was comfortable telling me a lot of things, and that's why when you watch documentary, it does feel kind of like the relationship between the filmmaker and the subject is a little bit different than if you watch some other docs where it's kind of like they're just they don't have that connection.
Wow. Yeah. And how long did y'all know each other before you started shooting this one? Throughout the film, right?
I mean, just from the first movie. So, my first film. Well, from my first film until we, started doing the documentary, that was probably like a little bit over a year, I would think.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like a year and a half maybe, because I released my first film in 2011 and we shot it in 2010. And then, right afterwards, I started working on this.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
great job getting him to open up then after knowing for I guess a good amount of time. Was
Yeah.
there any the film touches on a lot of dark subject matter, a lot of trauma. Was there anything that was left out of the film because it was too dark, or some things that were difficult to get him to open up about?
I mean, yeah, there's some stuff we left out of the documentary because it didn't really serve like the storyline necessarily. It was just like other side stories, you know, where I didn't want to have it overcrowding like the main theme and the main drive of the story. So yeah, there was definitely some stuff that we could cut out. There was nothing that was like, I mean, okay, when you're talking about gangs and all this stuff, they're not going to tell you certain things which are like obviously like incriminating or whatever. So a lot of that stuff like we didn't talk about because we didn't really want to. We didn't want the whole thing to be like a gang documentary. You know, it was not like the type to be like, oh, this is like, you know, how many crimes we committed and this is how crazy we are or whatever. As you see in the documentary with some of the younger homies, even when they come out and they're talking, a lot of it is not what you see, you know, where they're like bragging about this or that. It's more like they're talking about their love for their big homie, or they're talking about, you know, what they're doing, like in their actual lives, you know, like besides the drama with violence or whatever, like what are they doing for their families and how are they trying to get out of that street life, and how are they helping each other to really be a family for each other and be there for each other, because a lot of them came from backgrounds where they didn't have that type of family, you know, like didn't have father or mother or even brothers or sisters kind of thing.
And did you find a lot of similarities between the stories of the different members?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's an overall theme that goes with gang culture, which is, you know, they come from broken families, or they came from like traumatic, you know, childhoods. So I think, yeah, definitely very common.
Yeah, it's amazing that you were able to get Vanna so open and a lot of the members so open. And it's also pretty amazing that you found all the VHS tapes to pull, to put into the documentary. Was that difficult too, just from like a film perspective?
I mean, we did some digging around. Vanna did a lot of that. Like he reconnected with some of his older friends, people, you know, from the breakdancing days. And I think just through this kind of process, we were able to get some of those old tapes. So yeah, I'm glad we got that, because I think, especially some of the stuff where he's breakdancing,
Uh,
that's like I like that the best from the documentary.
as dope. You had to get a tape rewinder. Had to find a tape rewinder just to make this documentary. So,
Yeah.
what were people's reactions when they first saw this?
When they first saw this,
Mhm.
mostly pretty positive reactions. You know, we played at the San Diego Asian Film Festival, the LA Asian Film Festival, Seattle as well, where, you know, where we shot most of the film. And yeah, people were just like, I guess, inspired by the story. And I didn't really see any negative
Mhm.
reactions or anything. Like what was interesting was that in in San Diego, like a bunch of the TRG rascals came out to watch the film. So they pretty much took up like the whole theater. I don't know how many there were. There were like at least probably more than like 50 or 60 of them. And these were all guys from San Diego chapter, you know, so they weren't even like, yeah, they were just the rascals from over there. Um, and they were enjoying it. Like they were just, I gave out a bunch of free DVDs afterwards with posters, and they were just like loving it, you know?
Uh, I did see a lot of them at the later end of the film. I think it was at a film festival that you had premiered it at, and I think someone's mentioned it's like they're the characters that they are on the film. But that was about Bang Bang. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So, what was the most challenging part of making the documentary?
This was my first documentary film. So big part of it was just kind of learning the process of making documentaries. There was a lot of editing involved. So, luckily I had a good editor with Scott Morris, and he was able to kind of go through a lot of the footage, and together we pieced together like the narrative and, picked out which interview parts we wanted to use. And I think that was probably the most difficult, just like going through all the footage and really trying to like assemble a story.
So how long is the production of the film from start to finish?
I think in documentary years or time, this was probably pretty quick. It only took me maybe like a year to do. So throughout this year, I was, going around filming. Oh, hey, it's
Hey,
Vanna. Vanna's on.
Vanna. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. We're working the audio.
Oh, there you go. I can hear. Hello, everyone.
Hey, thanks
Hi.
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's exciting, and I'm brand new coming on Zoom, so great to see you.
Yeah, thanks for making the time to join us. My name is Kay. I'm going to be moderating. It's good to meet you virtually
Yes,
to the
yes.
virtual handshake. We're right in the thick of things talking about the film. So welcome in. My next
Thanks.
question was going to be, and it's also for Byron, but how, I know that you did Bang Bang before, but how much of the TJRG story did you know beforehand for making this?
Oh, I didn't really, I mean, I knew about them for sure. But I didn't really know like the history behind it or any of that, like I didn't really know any TRG members. Most of the people I knew that were like involved in gangs, they were all from Northern California and a couple guys from like LA, but they were like different types of gangs. So I think actually through Vanna, I learned a lot about gang culture, and that helped me make my first film. And I think I credited him as, what is it? Gang consultant or something.
Yeah,
The movie.
I remember.
It'll be like, hey Vanna, is this scene like what will happen here with the gangsters? And he'll be, oh yeah, this would happen, or they would do this or that, or say this. So yeah, he definitely educated me on that.
So that's actually pretty important because I had asked Byron this question earlier, but I want to know from you, Vanna. I feel like in Cambodian culture, in our culture, when we're talking about past trauma, it's really hard to open up about that. And I think in our culture, it's kind of shunned upon, a little bit taboo of a subject. How were you able to open up about your own past trauma?
My own past is from Chheng, Cambodia. My dad was one of the soldier fellas in Cambodia, and when we entered the United States in 1979, he was one of our father that got shot in the head. So there's pictures of him and everything where he kept being a little bit lost. That's why he seems lost, but he always tell me memories of back in the days, and then he gets lost later on. So yeah, he was defending against Khmer Rouge and then against the next battle until we got sent early here, like early then when we watched the Killing Field movies and stuff like that.
And so when you were making the documentary itself, was it hard to talk about growing up in gang life and that sort of thing?
It was hard. I mean, I got into films, seeing histories of films from out here, watching any movies, documentaries, and I was learning how to edit Final Cut Pro. So I was practicing everything myself, and then Byron see me trying to play around, putting my history of missing my mom. So he helped me out and talking about gangs, like where I was stuck is easy to spit out so you won't lose memories of your friends of what you're going through. So you'll always remember everyone for life and to keep the memories alive for life. That was great.
Yeah. And so what was it like to see your life on a film?
Life on the film, it was wonderful from like the start of being a b-boy breakdancing, and you wasn't shy. Now I'm shy, but watching all those videos just kept you excitement alive, and then you never gave up in life, and you want to see more films, dancings, and learning how to edit videos and being in a movie. It was like one time will make you feel so great of yourself, and then moving on to documentaries just made your life just keep going, never give up. Love.
Wow. And so this is a good segue into my next question. Is for both of you. This film focuses a lot of the film, not just through breakdancing, but it's a lot of Vanna trying to shed the gangster label. Do you feel like you were able to shed that, or does it still stick around? And for Byron, I mean, you've had a lot of experience now working with Asian gangs. Do you think the folks that are trying to shed that label have been able to do that? Either one of you can hop in.
Vanna, you go first.
Um, Everything has changed. I made peace with ones that I mentioned about in my documentary. Came see films. We shook hands and hung out little, but lots was made for peace, and a lot of great friends are getting great jobs. Still continuing bought houses, having families. I mean, there's still coming in one after I moved away and just trying to catch up with my families. There's things still going on that I can't protect all. I wish I can, but this turns to lots and lots and lots. You just can't control the world of your kinds. That's about
Yeah, actually, I wanted to touch on what Vanna said because during the Seattle Asian Film Festival, that was when like, I guess like, you know, some of the, basically all the TRGs came out and watched the film together, but they were from, you know, certain people had beef with each other before that, but they all kind of came together and watched the film together. And like, basically, I think through that process, they kind of squashed their beef, at least the personal beef that they had from that time. So that was like, yeah, it was like a pretty surreal moment for everybody that was there.
I think it's because they were all watching kind of a film about themselves, at least a piece of it.
I don't know. I mean, you know, you kind of, I think if you see the other side in a film and they're talking in a way where it's like you can relate to that and you see that, oh, they're not just like my enemy, they're actually just pretty much the same as me. They all have dreams and whatever, and it just like humanized the other side for them. And I mean, I don't know what exactly happened in terms of like, you know, how they squashed it, but I think people just kind of realized, you know what, like there's more to life than just like, you know, the cycle of like attacking each other and getting each other back. And
Yeah.
and we're all pretty much the same, and we should just, you know, squash the beef.
Wow.
Right, Vanna? I mean, I don't know. You
Yeah.
probably.
Oh yes, peace. Just shook hands. I mean, we see each other, run into each other, and just wave our highs. Nowadays, run into your original rivals. They just wave highs too as we get older. So hopefully it keeps on staying that way. Younger days was a lesson, and hopefully good word spreads out so everybody just wave and ignore one another and just protect your family. That's about it.
Oh, nice, nice. And so this film focuses a lot on Asian gangs, which refutes that model minority myth. Even with this recent movement of Asians in Hollywood, there's not a whole lot of stories about this going to the forefront. What do you think needs to happen for more of these kind of stories to be told?
Um, Byron?
I mean, I just feel like it's definitely a smaller percentage, you know, of like if you look at the gang culture of America, like the Asian American gangs are definitely like the smaller percentage. So I think it's natural that, you know, it's not really touched upon that much. But I mean, I do see that that model minority sort of image is slowly being broken, you know, as we progress. But it really just takes more storytellers. There's other Asian, like Asian American gang films coming out that that is telling like different perspectives of that, or different regions like Chinatown in New York or whatever. So there's been a lot of these films coming out, as well as like memoirs and books, stuff like that. But I mean, for me, I feel like it's at the end of the day, whether you're in like an Asian gang or like a Latino gang, it's like everybody's going through that same experience, of coming from like a messed up traumatic childhood, or just being caught up in that kind of environment. And the experiences are the same no matter like what race you are. Sure, like it's a little bit different with Asian Americans or Cambodian, but overall, like the experience it's a human experience, and there's a lot to be learned from that. What do you think, Vanna?
No, everything's correct. Chilling for peace. Everything's don't change. There's movies coming out about Hollywood. There's not plenty, but many of us Asians that are out in films. When I went and visited you in Hollywood, walking around the Hollywood area of a new movie that's coming out. Some security from Hollywood's new movie. He just let me in and sat with the writers and stuff on the front row. I just chilled and had a good time. So there's a lot of nice fellas out there. Oh, and also about the documentary. When I was growing up out there, one of my first friends was all Latinos. I ate their food, learned how to eat their food. Got introduced to dancing, ravers, housing, and then the day when I moved to Seattle, they're the one that walked me home until I moved away from Pomona. So I just don't want them to think that I got anything against a lot of them, but I love them, to all.
Yeah. Vanna, when you did you ever, when this film was released, saying things like, "Why are you showing this dark side of our culture or our people?"
I didn't catch that a second ago.
Sure. So, when this film came out, did you get any negative reactions from the Cambodian community? Like, were they saying, "Why are you showing the dark side of our culture and our people?"
There's like 50% of everyone that would, one could be from a rival side that hates your gang, and half that the trailers that's showing that you're showing off the gang. But when you watch the movie, there's insights that you don't know yet. And once they know, they give you respect. They hope you well, you appreciate. But it starts out just like a gang war history. But yeah, like I said, once you get inside, is I don't know how they feel. Half don't know. Half should be about them. There's a lot that I talk to that want to walk them, give handshakes and thing, and they try to talk about families they lost during the same procedure I'm going through. So a lot of speaking about it helps them out too. And I don't need to hurt them. They don't need to hurt me. It's about be well, carry well, be strong. Let me know if you need any kind of help. So yes, 50-50.
Oh, gotcha. And so this leads into my second to last question. But both of you now have had experiences interacting with Asian gang life. So from the outside and from the inside, what advice would you give to a young, lost person who might fall into this kind of lifestyle?
Byron, no.
Either one of you can.
You go.
Well, Byron, from making his films, he hears backstory from making his film of Bang Bang, writing his scripts, doing a great job, and then went to my documentary. So he knows the broken bridges that goes around to anyone that might be walking right beside him, feeling like it's the same game. Future might be he wants to help, but he don't know how. I don't know how to give advices, but we just hope not no more. But it's hard. Look what's going on today's problems is everywhere of anything. So if I ain't see that, and it's just that he sees, he knows one that does bad things. He tries to help. He even brought me up on my feet with his help to join the films. Just very helpful. So he knows what goes on to lift you up. So he's gonna be a big help too, also to me, big time.
Yeah, like my perspective on that is, like, if you're a young guy in your like early teens, there's really nothing that somebody can say to you to be like, hey, don't join that gang, because to you, whoever these, you know, people are, you don't see them as like, oh, this is a gang and I'm gonna join the gang. It's more like, oh, these are like my homies and, you know, they're my family. So you kind of just start hanging out with them. And then when something bad happens to one of your friends, you, of course, with the other homies, want to like protect that friend. And it's just kind of like a cycle of certain things that happen. I think that's the majority of like how people kind of get into the gang life, is just through that.
Right.
You come from a bad neighborhood where there is gangs. So if you're in a bad neighborhood and other gangs are like attacking your people, then you automatically form a gang, if you want to call it like a gang, with you and your friends to kind of protect yourselves or protect your community. I mean, that's how the gangs really started, like, you know, in the 80s. Black gangs or Asian gangs, they all kind of started initially like that, of just like, let's protect ourselves because the police and whoever, they're not protecting us, like, you know. I think like the way we can kind of help youths like not get into the gang culture is really just to provide a support system or other things that they can get into. You know, for Vanna, it was like breakdancing, and they had you know, like YMCA like clubs where, you know, as a kid who can't go home because your parents are not there, or you can't go home because you're, you know, you have an abusive family, then you can go to these places where you can play football, you can, you know, make videos, you can learn theater, acting, whatever, instead of going into the streets where you might end up getting into trouble. You know, instead, let's go and do something more creative. Like, so we need funding, we need money for those type of programs, but unfortunately, a lot of these programs are the first to get cut, you know. But yeah. I think as a community, if we're aware of this, then we can really kind of provide those types of places to nurture and cultivate the youth instead of letting them kind of go into the streets.
So yeah, that is a great way to end our panel on a positive note. But I'm gonna create a little bit of competition between the two of you with my last question. This is a number question, so whoever gets the number closest to the one I'm thinking of will win. This face mask, this is Cambodia. These are handmade by my aunt out of a Camra. So I will mail this to you if you can answer this question. How many times do you need to wash your rice?
I say wash your rice 3 to 5. Okay, when I do myself.
It's got to be one number.
I wash my rice. 5. You go with 5? I mean, I wash it 3 times, usually.
Okay. The correct answer, according to my aunt, is 3 times.
3 times?
So,
oh, yeah, dude.
I was thinking from 3 to 5. I was like, I was practicing.
Although I don't think you can wash it too many times, so I'll see if my aunt will make another one of these, because I feel like going under is not as bad as going over. So we'll see. But Byron will definitely get one. Vanna, I'm gonna try to get you one too.
Thank you.
So thank you both for joining us for this panel. Cyberspace, give it up for Byron and Vanna for joining us and doing this panel for us.
Yeah, and thank you. yeah, thank you to Cambodia Film Festival, Cambodia Town Film Festival for having our film.
Yeah,
Definitely an honor, and really
yeah. Chào
appreciate it.
Kuncharan.
And if you want to check out this film, Raskal Love, or any of the other films, they're all going to be streaming for free. Just check us out on Cambodia Town Film Festival on Facebook. And we're also going to have a bunch of dope panels throughout the whole festival that you can check out, not just this one. So please check us out. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.